Hello and welcome to pen spinning dexterity and flexibility. In this video, I'll cover everything you need to know about flexibility and dexterity for pen spinning. I'll cover basic exercises and stretches, and even a full list of linkages I designed specifically to improve dexterity. Of course, this doesn't have to be just for pen spinning. Feel free to use this guide to improve your overall hand health if you want. Why listen to me? People have said I have pretty flexible and dexterous hands, but they didn't always used to be like this. Before 2020, my hands were definitely genetically superior in terms of flexibility, but not so much dexterity. However, on October 25th, 2020, I broke my hand and ended up getting 4 4-inch long metal rods drilled down the center of my bones. When the cast was off, I was barely able to move my hand normally. This got me to pay extra attention on their well-being, and to do this, I implemented some stretches and exercises. Now I have some of the most flexible and dexterous hands in the pen spinning community. Please keep in mind, I'm not a doctor or physical therapist in any way, so take what I say with a grain of salt. This is just what I did to get my hands to the level they are now. And yes, long story short, genetics definitely play a part in flexibility, so don't be discouraged if your hands don't look like mine. First of all, there is a difference between most people's definition of dexterity and flexibility. Dexterity is the ability to move the hand and fingers in certain ways together independently to increase overall performance. Flexibility is how much the fingers can bend in different directions with smoothness and range of motion. Stretches and exercises to increase dexterity and flexibility are debated on by some people, but I believe they play a massive role in dexterity and can help with the smoothness part of flexibility, not so much the maximal bendable distance. So yeah, genetics will definitely stop you from having salty hands. We all start at roughly the same level of dexterity, but not flexibility, similar to how everyone had to learn to crawl, then walk, then run, versus how people are born shorter or taller. Now let's go on to the exercises. The first few are exercises that should give a strong foundation for stamina, dexterity, strength, and even prevent injuries. The main muscles responsible for moving the fingers are located in the forearm. There are several different ways to train different parts of your forearm. The first method I'll explain will be many people's first steps in training forearm strength, and that would be grip strength. Grip strength in terms of pen spinning can help your spinning stamina, dexterity, and can be a good warm-up to get your fingers accustomed to moving to reduce spinning warm-up time. One way to train this is to get a hand grip. You can get a decent one for like $5 US. Another forearm exercise is dead hangs. Just find a pull-up bar somewhere, even a tree branch could work. You can start with 2-handed dead hangs, slowly increasing how long you hang. Then when 2 is too easy, you can make it one-handed, and increase the time hung gradually over time. If one-handed is too easy, or you want an extra challenge, you can try false grip dead hangs, which looks like this. These are pretty dangerous to do if you're inexperienced and not warmed up, so proceed with caution. Another exercise is behind the back wrist curls. You can do them with the dumbbells or barbells. The final exercise is reverse wrist curls. These work more of the flexor muscles of the forearm and are commonly used for physical rehabilitation patients. I believe the flexor muscles are more important for spinning performance. If you want to do these types of exercises but don't have the equipment and want to do them casually, finger extensions on each other are a fine substitute. The first is an extension type pressure where you push against your thumb with each finger. The goal of this is to keep your fingers as extended as possible without locking out. This is easier the less loose your joints are. The flexor version is similar, but just the other way around with the thumb on top of the finger. It's a lot harder to lock out when doing these. Both of these exercises are great because you can do them anywhere, anytime, and don't need any equipment or space. Next, I'll show a list of linkages I made specifically to train dexterity. I urge you to really try these linkages. I can almost guarantee pen spinning dexterity improvement if you get really good at all of them. In general, practicing any type of pen spinning linkage will have massive benefits for your dexterity, especially the more dense your linkages are. I believe it's also beneficial to use a heavy mod and spin faster for dexterity purposes. Every mod has their comfortable spinning speed that does not require too much force and has enough momentum to keep spinning. The heavier and longer the mod is, the slower the comfortable spinning speed tends to be because it requires more force to move and has more momentum. Use YouTube's slow motion feature to copy or just read the notation if you're a nerd like me. They will be presented in order from easy to hard in my opinion, or in general simple to complex. Skip this section if you don't care about pen spinning. Throughout my life, I've played around with a lot of stretches, but only kept doing a handful of them. I also found myself doing these a lot whenever my hand or wrist felt even slightly uncomfortable. I probably do them about 100 times a day without knowing. The first stretch starts in the fist position with your fingers in as much as possible. Then bend the wrist forward almost like you're flexing your forearm muscles. The next step is to fully extend your arm as much as possible to the point where it's even hyperextended. Finally, use your other hand or an external surface to push down slightly. The last two steps can happen at the same time when you get comfortable with doing them enough. Also try playing around with the angle of stretch, activating different parts of the arm, wrist, and hand. It's very important to stretch the different angles. You kind of have to twist your wrist a certain way to really get the stretch on both sides. The next stretch is similar to the last one, but just targets the other side. Start with your hand fully opened, then use your other hand to gently pull back your fingers. Again, it helps to extend your arm in the process. It's also good to play around with the angle of activation. Also try stretching each finger individually. This is especially good for the thumb because you don't get the same type of stretch with all fingers as you do with the thumb individually. Another more extreme version is you can try pushing down slightly on the other finger, further separating the independent finger stretch. The final stretch I do sometimes is separating the fingers apart from each other. I only really do this if I have a cramp or tightness in my hand, but it can still be a good practice to prevent any cramps. So far, we've only looked at dexterity-based exercises and stretches, but now we'll move more onto the flexibility. Flexibility in the sense of finger crosses are normally caused by hypermobility, also known as being double jointed or having loose joints. Loosening your joints may be good for finger cross stuff now, but in the future can have serious implications on your hand health and strength. Stretching your skin and muscles should be plenty enough for dexterous hands. If you do wish to know more about finger cross flexibility, I will continue. I'll go through every basic finger cross you'll need, which you can follow along. The first one is cross the middle finger behind the index finger for an FC1-2. If you need, you can use your other hand to help assist getting into the position. If you're very flexible, then you could try closing your hand, but don't force it if you're not already comfortable with the basic FC. Next, FC2-3. FC3-4. FC4-3. FC3-2. FC2-1. Thumb FCs are not very important in my opinion. Next, onto the O-type finger crosses. These are much more harder and require a lot more flexibility. You can ignore the notation if you don't understand it, just follow along with your eyes. We'll start with OFC 2P outside of 1P, which looks like this. If you need excessive assistance with your other hand due to finger length, you can just skip the specific finger cross, as some people just don't have the genetics for the specific finger crosses. The goal is to push down, making your hole as circular as possible. Next is OFC 3P outside of 1P. With OFCs with a finger in between, you can practice threading, which is when you move the in finger in and out of the hole. The goal is to get the entire finger through the hole, not just one or two sections. Next is OFC 4P outside of 1P. This one has two fingers in between, so you can either move both of them together or move them the opposite of each of the similar to a side flush sonic. This one is definitely pretty hard, I can't even do it fully, so don't be discouraged. Next is OFC 1P outside of 2P. These are probably hardest for most people because the middle finger is normally the longest finger. Next is OFC 3P outside of 2P. I'm just barely able to do it. Next is OFC 4P outside of 2P, with threading. If you can do this, I'd be very impressed. Next is OFC 1P outside of 3P with threading if you can. Next is OFC 2P outside of 3P. Next is OFC 4P outside of 3P, which I cannot do. Next is OFC 1P outside of 4P with two finger threading. Next is OFC 2P outside of 4P with threading. Next is OFC 3P outside of 4P. Bonus, OFC TP outside of 1P, which was in RPD's book under Probably Can't Be Done Without Hurting Yourself. Overall, the main goal of fingercross stuff is to get comfortable with putting your fingers in weird positions. To do this, look through the previous fingercross examples and find the ones you find comfortable to do. The important part is not breaking your hands, but slowly getting used to the positions by twisting your hands all throughout the day. In general, if you want to spin better and increase your finger dependencies, the most important thing is to spin more. Specifically dense linkages with heavier pen mods spinning slightly faster than you normally would. If you implement the stretches and exercises in this video, you should be able to spin for much longer, warm-up time greatly reduced, have better finger dependencies, and prevent any injuries. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out my other videos on pen spinning. See you next time.